Are you searching for an apartment or a house? If you are, there are a few things that you want to be aware of in your search. The first thing you want to do is create a checklist. The checklist will list all the necessities that you need to make sure you have a joyous, peaceful, and financially comfortable living. You want to find out, is the rent affordable? Are your utilities included into your rent? How close is the supermarket, the shopping center, your children's daycare, or your children's school, and even your doctors? The checklist helps you balance all of the fees that will come your way once you move. Once you decide that your checklist is ready, you want to decide whether you're going to go look through the newspaper or the internet. If you work through the internet, what you want to keep in mind is that many websites that house a lot of different properties may not be accurate in their reporting of the rent, the utilities, and amenities. So if you find a house or an apartment that you are ready to lease or you would like to lease or rent, what you want to do is go to that, find if there's a link to that website of that apartment or that community and what you're looking for. Once you have found that, what you want to do is always print out a copy of that web page. What that does is give you the physical evidence that you will need when you go to the landlord or the property management and ask for an apartment quote and rent. If they quote you a price that's higher than the website page, if they had amenities that's included but now are charging you different, want to charge you differently, you have several choices. You can show them the copy of their website and inquire why are the fees different. At that point, you can decide whether you want to continue and take the apartment, continue your search elsewhere, and or report it to the Service Commission Consumer Protection Division that you feel like you were kind of misled and betrayed and duped. That what they had on their website is totally different from what they're offering you when you get there. Once you decide on the apartment that you want, now the excitement comes. Once you are excited about your home, you don't want to forget, be mindful of what's in your lease. The lease contains such things as how much your rent will be, utilities. You want to go through with a fine tooth comb because you want to make sure that you're fully understanding the lease. Many people don't want to read the lease because it has 12, 14, 20, or 30 pages in some leases, and it can be very tiring, mainly when the management company or the landlord will not allow you to take that lease home with you to view. So if you have someone who's a reader and wouldn't mind reading it for you, definitely make sure that you have someone go through it with you to make sure you understand all the fine prints of your lease. But never forget, never ever forget that you have the right to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Remember, they want your business as much as you want theirs. So as you going forth, always remember, have a list of questions as well as your checklist that you want to ask. Many times people want to find out, what is the crime like in this area? Have you had any problems with the building? There are also other important questions that you want to ask, such as, do you have any rent specials? You also want to ask about the rent specials because many times the landlord or management company might have no security deposit or first month's rent. You also want to inquire about any hidden fees. Many times in leases, you'll find that there are hidden fees such as the water and sewage, utilities not being included, despite it may be listed on the website. Once you find out about these hidden fees, pet fees, due to fees increase during the year or not, then you can have some more comfort in going forth. One of the things you want to understand about the utilities is this: if your utilities are not included in your rent, they will either be billed one of three ways. The one of three ways that it can be billed to you is either from a local company that's regulated by the Service Commission in your state, by a third party metering or billing company that the owner uses, and or the owner himself. And what happens is when you have a third party metering company, many times that metering company may actually be billing you based on what the landlord is giving them on a ledger to bill you. So you want to understand that, because in many leases it says the landlord and or its billing company can bill you but the bills may be higher or lower and may not be accurate. You also may be paying for common areas, as we mentioned earlier. You may be paying for vacant apartments. So you want to understand your utility billing to make sure that you're comfortable with it. Because if you're billed by a third party metering company, you have no idea what you're getting billed. But it's always good to keep your bills from your present residence into your current residence, so when you get like bills mainly during the winter time, you have something to compare them to. And if they are extremely high, like from $55 to $200, you can report it because something is definitely wrong. Once you get your utility bills, mainly if they're billed by a third party metering or your landlord, you want to check to make sure that everything you're being billed for is also the things that's listed in your lease. Your lease should have either check marks or some identification by these areas in your lease to say that these are the things that you are responsible for. If there's no identifier in those areas, that means you are not responsible for it, and if you receive a bill, you are not required to pay it. However, if you do have markings by those areas, you are responsible for those bills. However, if you're dealing with a billing system where you are reimbursing the landlord for what he paid out, you want to make sure that your billing is accurate. If you see on your bill where it should be metered but you're being estimated, that's a red flag that your bill is not accurate at all, and you want to address your landlord and or management company about it. The third party submetering billing, such as RUBS, is what many landlords use to bill you through a third party company and or bill them yourself themselves. I'm sorry, themselves. So you want to again make sure that you understand where your billing of your utilities is coming from. When it comes to signing your lease, you want to be mindful that there are going to be certain areas of your lease that are key for your signature. Many times you will find in your lease that you're signing almost a dozen or more times. The reason that is the landlord wants to make it aware that you, by signing your initials or your name, that you are aware of these certain terms and conditions in your lease. If you're not reading your lease and then you later find out that you signed for something that was a little outrageous, and or doesn't seem legal or moral, then you have to go before a judge to even deal with those situations. So you want to be mindful of where you're signing your lease, signing your name on your lease. Three important places you want to sign your name on your lease. The first page identifies what your rent is, if any utility costs and things of that nature. Sometimes the details of the utility costs are within the lease, but your first page is identifying at least your base rent. Inside of your lease, you will have an automatic renewal clause. What you want to understand about that automatic renewal clause is that if your name or your signature is not by the automatic renewal clause, it is not valid. Which means that even though the landlord or the management company has the right to not renew you for any reason outside of retaliation and harassment, if you're involved in a tenant association and or advances or anything like that. But if your initials are by this area, what this means is that when it's time for you to get a renewal, many times you will get a renewal letter from the landlord saying your rent is going up or it's going to stay the same, whether your utility billing is going up, and whatever change of term and condition may be in the lease. When you get this, remember that Maryland State Law Rule 8-203 states that you must be given all the change of terms and conditions within 60 days of your lease expiring. What that means is that if you get a renewal letter and it doesn't give you all of the details, for instance, it tells you your rent is going up $20, your gas or your water bill is going up $5, and then it states there's other change in terms and conditions, or it doesn't state it, and by the time you get hold of your new lease and you find that the information in your lease is not on your renewal letter, and that lease you received after that 60-day, which means that it's only maybe 50, 30, 10 days before your lease expires, that means that that landlord or management company have breached the lease. What you want to remember is that you do not pay any increases. You continue to pay your same rent, your same water costs, and all of your utilities. When they take you to court, you take Maryland State Law 8-203. You make sure you have any documents, as far as emails, text messages, whatever you may have, to show that you did not get this information in a timely fashion, which means that they cannot go up on your rent or utilities or change anything in your lease. Also, when you're paying anything to your landlord, you always want to remember to get a receipt. Never make a payment for anything in your apartment, whether it's for your rent, whether it's for a flat water charge, or any kind of utility charge, maintenance fees, anything, deposits, whatever you pay the landlord, you want to pay and make sure you have a receipt. It's better to pay either by a check, cashier's check, or money order, because what that does is allow you have your own receipt. However, once you pay your bill, the owner, the landlord, the management company, or whoever's over the property should be giving you a receipt for your payment. If you do not receive a receipt for your payment, then you should not be issuing any money to your landlord, mainly in cash. Remember, you have to change over your phone from one apartment to another. You also want to remember to change over your electricity. And one of the things that you want to remember in your changeover is that once you call and give the phone company as well as the BG&E or your gas company the date of your change, once you move into your new apartment, you want to call and make sure that your gas and utilities of the phone was cut off at your previous address, as well as making sure that the owner's name of the new apartment is not on that bill. When you move, make sure that you get time to review your apartment, to inspect it. Do not accept the fact that you have to wait till the day you move to inspect your apartment. That is not accurate. You should at least try to have at least 3 to 4 days or maximum of 7 days to inspect your apartment. What this does is allow you to see if there's anything wrong with your apartment, such as the toilet is broke, the faucets are weak, the cabinets are falling off the hinges, if there's roach droppings, mice infestation, far as mouse droppings or any sign of them, any roaches in your apartment. If you see things that are not correct with your apartment, this gives you time to talk with the landlord or the management company and tell them of the problems that you see for them to have it fixed before you move in. Because you have to remember, whatever's not reported, once you move in, you only given many times up to 7 days to list anything that's wrong with your apartment to your landlord. However, if you move into an apartment with a lot of things wrong, then you're at the mercy of your landlord, hoping that they will fix these areas in a timely fashion. But being the fact that you're already in the apartment doesn't really give the landlord motivation to fix something that's broken, offset, damaged, mainly when they didn't do it before you move in. So you always want to make sure that you have enough time to inspect your apartment and approve it. Once you do, after you move in, if you find that there's errors, you should always be given a form by your landlord management company to list anything that's wrong. When you list what's wrong, you always want to put "as I can see," which means that if I find anything later, I will report that as well. Also, after you have done so and you have paid, you moved in, you paid your security deposit, you paid your rent. Every month that you pay your rent, you want to make sure that you get a copy of your account ledger. What it does is make sure that the money that you have paid has been to apply to your account correctly and to the things that you have deemed it for. For instance, if you are paying by check, money order, or cashier's check, you want to always note in the memo section or somewhere on your check, money order or cashier's check, what the money is for. If you have $1,000 that you're paying the landlord, if $800 is for the rent, you want to put $800 June rent 2016, $100 gas June 2016, $100 pet fee June 2016. And this makes sure that the money that you're paying is going exactly where it should, and it will also help you if you ever need to go to court. We hope that this has been helpful to you. And always remember, regardless to whether your rent is paid or not, you still have the right to request maintenance repairs in a timely fashion. You also have the right not to be harassed And also remember that if you find yourself in a situation where you're not able to pay your rent, always speak with your landlord or your management company and let them know of your situation. But you always want to remember, do not set a payment arrangement for something that you cannot afford to take out of fear and anxiety of losing your home. You always want to go to court. The thing about going to court is this: when you go to court, your voice is heard. It is determined, the accuracy of what you owe is able to be determined if you're present. Also, if your landlord management company gets a judgment against you, what that means is that within 3 days you can go back down to the court and get a copy of that judgment, and you can take it to local areas in your state or city and get assistance. And many times people think that you go to social services. If you don't have children, social services, mainly if you're not a senior, I'm not sure how that works with seniors. I know they do have a social service for seniors. However, if you're in that middle bracket of no kids and not a senior yet, you have to go to other places to get assistance. The paperwork is not as strenuous as one may think. Like when people go to social service, you have a stack of papers to fill out. It's not that intense. All most places want to know that if we pay, get you caught up, can you afford to maintain it? You might have to show them proof that you're working, or you might have to just bring in something to say this is what I owe. Sometimes you may have to contribute money to it. Sometimes you may not. Many times you may not. So again, never fear going to court. If you find yourself in a financial situation, mainly if you have a tenant association, or even if your building doesn't have a tenant association, if you know of a building that has one, call that tenant association. If it's a neighborhood association, call that neighborhood association, because many times they have links and or information that they can give you that would help. Many times, like even in Maryland, you can call 211 in order to get those names and numbers as well. And be mindful that the eviction process doesn't take a few days, or sometimes it can take up to 3 to 4 weeks just to get an eviction date for you. So don't panic. If you find yourself behind, there are many avenues and much time that you can have in order to get your situation dealt with effectively and efficiently. In addition, if you're renting a house, if you're thinking about renting a house, you want to go on to Maryland, the Maryland website or your state's website to look up the property. You can look up property taxes. You can look up to make sure the property is current on its taxes, on its water bill, that there is no lingering BG&E bills, and it's not a foreclosure. You want to check those things before you take on a house to rent or lease. The reason this is that if a house is a foreclosure and it was rented to you, regardless to you not knowing, when the foreclosure happens, you will have to vacate the premises immediately. You will be locked out. So do all your diligent research on houses that you're planning on renting. You want to make sure that they're licensed to rent you that house. You want to make sure there's no outstanding loans or debts on that house, water bills, BG&E, a phone bill, property taxes, ground rent, things that can end up having the state take the house from you. So please keep this in mind again as you do your search. You can find information about the eviction process on the next video. Stay tuned.